Welcome to Love X Revenge, where power meets vulnerability, pride collides with kindness, and one unexpected act can change everything forever. The millionaire CEO's twin daughters wouldn't eat anything, no matter who tried. Not the personal chefs flown in from Europe. Not the nutritionists with perfect smiles and thick files of data. Not even their father, a man feared in boardrooms across the city, whose single word could make or break empires. Adrian Blackwood had built his fortune from nothing. Steel jaw, controlled voice, tailored suits that looked like armor. He negotiated hostile takeovers before breakfast and crushed competitors before lunch. Yet every evening, he stood helplessly in the doorway of the dining room, watching his 6-year-old twin daughters push away untouched plates. Emma and Lily sat side by side, identical curls framing pale faces, their large eyes distant. They didn't cry. They didn't complain. They simply refused. Spoons lay untouched. Food cooled. Silence grew heavier than any argument Adrian had ever faced. It had started after their mother died. One day, they ate normally. The next, they barely spoke. And then they stopped eating altogether. Doctors found nothing wrong. Therapists whispered words like trauma and grief. Adrian paid for the best of everything, but nothing reached his daughters. Each failure added another crack to the steel man the world admired. Nannies came and went. One was too strict. Another too cheerful. One cried after a week. Another quit midday without explanation. The twins never reacted. They just stared past them, unmoved, unreachable. Then the new nanny arrived. Her name was Clara. She didn't come recommended by an elite agency. Her resume was modest. No designer clothes, no polished accent. She wore simple flats and carried a small canvas bag instead of a briefcase. When Adrian first saw her, he frowned. "You're aware this is a serious position," he said coldly, standing behind his massive desk. Clara nodded calmly. "Yes, sir. My daughters are difficult." She met his eyes without flinching. Children aren't difficult. They're honest. Something about that unsettled him. "You'll start immediately," he said. "But understand this, if you fail, you'll be gone by the end of the week." Clara smiled softly. "I understand." That evening, instead of directing the kitchen staff or correcting table manners, Clara did something no one else had done. She sat on the floor. Emma and Lily were at the table, their plates untouched as usual. Clara didn't speak to them. She didn't coax or plead. She simply took a small bowl from her bag, sat cross-legged on the rug a few feet away, and began to eat quietly. The girls noticed. They glanced at her spoon. At the food. At the way she hummed softly, barely audible, like a lullaby without words. After a minute, Lily frowned. Emma tilted her head. Clara didn't look at them. She kept eating slowly, calmly, as if the world wasn't watching. Adrian stood frozen in the hallway, ready to intervene. This wasn't protocol. This wasn't professional. But something told him to wait. Clara finished half her bowl, then gently placed it on the floor. "This," she said quietly, still not looking at them, "was my mom's recipe. She made it when I didn't want to eat either." Emma's fingers twitched. "She said food tastes different when someone cares if you're full," Clara continued. Not angry, not scared, just caring. Silence. Then, barely noticeable, Lily picked up her spoon. Adrian's breath caught. She didn't eat much, just one small bite, but it was the first bite in weeks. Emma followed. One bite, then another. No applause, no praise. Clara didn't even smile. She simply sat there. That night, Adrian locked himself in his office and stared out the window, shaken. Billions hadn't solved this. Authority hadn't. Fear hadn't. Kindness had. Over the next days, Clara never pushed. She cooked with them instead of for them. She told stories while cutting fruit. Stories about being afraid of the dark. About missing people who never came back. About being angry and not knowing why. The twins listened. They started asking questions. They started laughing. And they started eating. Adrian watched from a distance, unsure how to feel. Gratitude mixed with something darker, suspicion. No one reached his daughters without wanting something. No one ever stayed kind without a price. One evening, he confronted Clara. "You knew what to do," he said. "Why?" She looked surprised. They needed someone to listen. That's not an answer, he snapped. She met his gaze, steady. It is when you've lost someone. His chest tightened. You don't know anything about loss, he said harshly. Clara hesitated, then quietly replied, I lost my sister. She stopped eating too. Everyone tried to fix her. No one tried to understand her. The room fell silent. Adrian felt something break inside him. Days later, he overheard Emma whisper to Lily, I'm not hungry, but I don't feel empty anymore. That night, Adrian couldn't sleep. He began noticing things. How Clara stayed late without being asked. How she refused bonuses. How she spent her breaks reading children's books instead of using her phone. He ran a background check. It came back clean, except for one detail. Clara had once worked for a charity Adrian had destroyed. Years ago, he had bought out a small nonprofit's property to build his headquarters. The charity collapsed. Lives were disrupted, quietly forgotten. Clara had been one of the volunteers. The realization hit him like ice. You knew who I was, he said the next morning, anger simmering. From the start. Yes, she admitted. Then why are you here? His voice lowered. Revenge. Clara shook her head. At first, maybe I wanted to see the man who hurt so many people. And now, she glanced toward the playroom, where Emma and Lily laughed. Now I see a father who's hurting too. Adrian had no response. Weeks passed. The twins were healthy again. Color returned to their cheeks. Laughter filled the house that once echoed with silence. Clara handed in her notice. I think they'll be okay now, she said gently. Adrian felt panic. Real, unfiltered panic. Stay, he said. She studied him. Why? Because, I need you here, he admitted. Not just them. Clara smiled sadly. Then do something good with what you have. The next month, Adrian reopened the charity, quietly, fully funded. He stepped back from ruthless deals. He went home earlier. And Clara stayed. Not because of money. Not because of revenge. But because sometimes, love enters disguised as kindness, and revenge transforms into redemption. And two little girls learned to eat again, not because they were hungry for food, but because they were finally full of love.